Hello everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be going through an unboxing and review of the Beast Combiner 2-pack of Optimus Primal and Skullcruncher. And this, like a lot of the recent Transformers content, is all coming out of the Rise of the Beast figure line to coincide with the movie's impending release, which as of this recording is still about 6 to 8 weeks, depending where you live. So here we have the front of the packaging, Primal on the left and Skullcruncher on the right. As of this recording, I've already looked at Bumblebee and Snarl Saber, and suffice to say, it's very much a gimmick line. But that's okay, be interesting to see how it goes. So there's Primal, looking interesting. Nice that he has some color apps, but that blue is not doing it for me. Skullcruncher, on the other hand, does look pretty cool. So that's that. In terms of the back of the packaging, so on the left, Primal will be able to transform into his beast mode, 7 steps of conversion, and then Skullcruncher here in his beast mode, and then the combiner mode with Primal to make the combined armor mode, I guess. Looking at this, the gimmick looks like it's pretty much the same as Snarl Saber. I'm pretty sure they're all the exact same mechanism and it's just been overlaid with a different animal exterior. Anyway, now that we've looked at that, time to get these two pried from the packaging and have a better look at things. And with everything out of the packaging, we have one Skullcruncher who actually doesn't look too bad. And interestingly enough, the second iteration of Skullcruncher in the toy line in general. So one of him, we have Optimus, and yeah, we'll come back to him in a bit, and the manual. So I guess quick look at the manual first. So Optimus, his conversion into his beast mode, not too dissimilar to his weaponizer figure, where basically the chest pretty much just pops out, flips around, and then not so much the arms, but the back legs will have this little knee bend and things like that. So that's definitely not too bad at all. And unlike his weaponizer, he will be able to sport more of that quadruped look, which I think is pretty cool. As for everything else, we do have the instructions on how to equip the tail weapon for Primal, and then how to convert him over into his combiner armor, which steps-wise is pretty much the same as what Snarl Saber was. So before we look at Skullcruncher, here's Optimus from the front, the side, the back. The back actually doesn't look too bad. The other side, yes, he will definitely stand on his own 2 feet. View from the top down, bottom up. In fact, so unlike his weaponizer, because you would think those feet are more for his robot mode, but alas, they do not swivel around. Quick look at some of his detailing. So the detailing once again isn't too bad, but I don't know why he needs that much blue. If anything, they could have just stopped at the head and it wouldn't have been as bad. And he also has a very nice Maximal logo on his chest. Articulation wise, nothing in the head, nothing in the waist. Arm will do a full 360, and that is about it. And as for the legs, well, just do that with his arms first. He can do a full split, which is very nice. Leg will go all the way to the back, all the way to the front, all the way to the side regardless, so that's very cool. Very nice, impressive knee bend, so At least his lower body has some articulation compared to the top body. So that's the knee bend. Knee will go pretty much, well, that much really, so it's just a straight leg outward. But the knee bend there is actually quite nice. Granted, part of the beast mode transformation, there will be some movement in the feet, but it's mainly, you know, this tilting, nothing in terms of being able to spin around and stuff like that. So definitely not too overly complex in terms of his articulation and things like that. Basically, it's basic, really. Now, before we get too carried away, so that's the detaching the sword, well, the tail from Skullcruncher, and attaching it into his hand like so. And because there's no elbow bend, it's pretty much however you pose his arm at the shoulder joint. So yeah, it's not going to be that crash hot looking. That's not too bad for what it is. So that is that. Take that out and reattach that for the time being. Conversion into beast mode. So this should pop out. Which does. Spin it around. We'll have a better look at that in a little bit anyway. Arms forward. Do that with the legs. And there you go. A bipedal gorilla. From the front, the side, I'm not sure if his legs are supposed to look exactly like that, but it works. From the back, from the other side. So the biggest change here really will be the obviously flipping around for his beast mode gorilla, which once again the detailing isn't too bad. It's a shame that you can see the back of his robot head still coming through there at his top of his forehead and gorilla line, I guess. But it's not too bad. But the head actually does look nice with that color and detailing. I always feel like I should keep him in this mode versus his robot mode. But definitely nice that they considered letting Primal do his more gorilla type stance versus standing up. I mean, you can obviously stand up like a normal person, but unlike his weaponizer, his head is actually very much more in that forward pose. So if you do upright, he's basically always looking up. So there you go. Two different incarnations of the same character, not the same figure, and doing two different completely things. Anyway, so that is Primal in his beast mode. Now what I'll do is convert him back into his robot mode, which does not take very long whatsoever. And let's attach Skullcruncher. So I'll take off his tail already, and I believe the top of his head will detach. Actually, before I do that, because we actually haven't done it yet. So, Skullcruncher, from the side, top, the bottom, from the front, from the back. His legs will do a little bit of movement, not too much, very basic movement, and if anything it's probably more to just support transformation, but all four of his legs will be able to at least, you know, move around, at least get them more flush to the ground. His mouth will not move, so it's very much stuck in this permanent open pose, and there is a little built-in weapon of some description in there. Now, just before I combine them, I will say the colours are nice, especially with some of this extra gold trimming up here. So visually, yeah, actually isn't too bad. I almost prefer to keep him in his gator mode. Anyway, let's take the top of the head off, take the tail off. So what will then happen is the top of the crocodile head will become some level of, arm shielding, and the tail, like we saw earlier, will just become a weapon like so. So that is Primal with a little bit of weapon accessories. As for the rest, well, I'm going to be attaching Skullcruncher into those 2 ports. So in the head goes. Yeah, hopefully I might need to flip the legs up already. If I remember correctly, I had to do that for Snarl Saber as well, although his legs just flipped over and recessed in. Now if I do that, there we go. So there, that is the, you might even just flip those up a bit more. I think that's how they should go. So that is the combiner mode. Combiner mode from the front, the side, the back, and the other side. So you can see more of this little built-in weapon that unfortunately you can't really do much with because of articulation. I actually take that back because I did notice. So whilst it's not connected to his arm, the actual Skullcruncher head does have this little joint pivot in here where if you just untab it, it can actually move. So yes, you actually can swing it around to actually use it as some type of weapon there, or at least try and align it with his arm to make it look like it's attached. So there you go. So a little bit more playability than what Bumblebee and Snarl Saber had. Quick zoom up of the head detailing and the torso, and to be honest, I have no idea what's going on. I'm assuming it's supposed to be a extra armed helmet over Primal's head, or at least that's the general intent. Yes, he can still stand on his own 2 feet, which is kind of cool because it does add a bit of bulk to him, so he's not off balance, which is very good. But definitely don't expect too much in the way of playability even once this is on, just because the base figure doesn't do too much. I mean, Primal can basically go, "Hooray, do this," and yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's keep it there. So we'll put the Primal Skullcruncher armor together, bring back the manual. So final thoughts. Optimus Primal as a figure, his beast mode definitely looked a lot nicer, and it's nice that the transformation does allow for more of that gorilla stance than a standard bipedal humanoid stance. So as I mentioned earlier, it's interesting how 2 different figures of Primal, one will lean towards bipedal, one will allow quadrupedal. The detailing of both modes is very nice. I am dubious about some of the colour apps in his robot mode, e.g. the blue. Feels like it's a bit of overkill. And in terms of playability, irrespective of robot or beast mode, there's very, very basic articulated joints, most of which are actually in his feet. legs, sorry. And definitely not too bad, but don't expect much in the way of dynamic posing. So that's Primal. Skullcruncher, visually as a crocodile, he actually does look quite nice. The combined mode, it's purely the gimmick of the line to be able to do it. It doesn't look terrible, doesn't look great either. Probably just because it does seem a bit oversized on the actual figure, which I guess is understandable. As a gimmick, it's definitely not too bad, but as a... okay, if I was of a younger generation, I would probably enjoy the gimmick and the novelty more between the two separate figures, putting them together. As a more mature collector, and I'm pretty sure I said this in the Bumblebee Snarled Saber video, pretty much use person preference. If you're a huge fan of the character, then by all means. If you think there's a bit of playability within the figure, go for it. But I definitely wouldn't say everyone should be stripping the shelves bare of the Beast Combiner line. I do have RC still to do, and I think RC will be the most interesting of the three that I have, because she's into 2 digits worth of transformation steps, which I think is quite interesting. So she may possibly have some decent articulation. Time will tell. Just because there's 13 steps of transformation doesn't necessarily mean you've got good articulation. It just means a lot of things are moving around. But going back to Primal and Skullcruncher, it's definitely not terrible. I'll definitely finish grabbing the line for Rise of the Beasts, but I don't think I would grab this type of gimmick subline again in the future, with the exception of very specific figures if I think there's some value there. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but I think the novelty of the subline is probably not for me, and that's perfectly fine. It's definitely nice to at least have a look at them and appreciate them for what they are, and things like that, but it's all good. Once again, depends on the audience looking at the figure. So that'll bring us to the end of the unboxing and review of the Beast Combiner 2-pack Optimus Primal and Skullcruncher. As I said, if you want one, get one. If you're not too convinced, I think you can easily skip it and not lose any sleep over it. Now, interestingly enough, if they ever release a Beast Megatron, I'd almost be tempted to see what this looks like with Skullcruncher on him, just because of the whole... Going back to the original Beast Wars, there was a Megatron-based alt mode, and I think that would just be a nice little nostalgic, quote-unquote, Easter egg to that particular figure of Megatron. Time will tell. We'll see. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review video. Feel free to leave a like or comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link to that in the description below. I'll also include a short at some point in time, most likely in tandem with this video, and there will be some future content on the community tab, hopefully in the way of a Wave 1 consolidated post of these Beast Combiners. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future video, whether it's more Rise of the Beasts or something else on the channel. See ya.